The fates, the reason of the world. The name in Greek is imarmeni. The name imarmeni is etymologically related to the word fate. The word derives from the ancient verb from Hebrew, which means to receive in distribution my share. The form of this verb in the adjacent tense of the passive voice. As a proper name, it's the personification of the greatest power, which dominates nature and regulates the action of men, and she is considered the ruler of the fates. Tyrannic and beloved illusion, contemplation of the unachievable, blurred the swords of the absolute, wielded by Imarmeni, who dances with your life. Imarmeni is destiny, the inevitable, which is very often identified with necessity in the world of coexistence of gods and of people, which is governed by strict rule of law. Imarmeni is what was determined by fate and the word of the world. I guess you can call it karma, right? The Stoics, for their part, define Imarmeni as a simultaneously natural and divine organizing force of the world, which constitutes the logos and lawfulness of everything, a force which maintains and is maintained by governing and including the opposites, identical with fate, providence, nature, the universe, and finally with the god Zeus himself, the ancient Greeks thought. Reproachable is the word of the world, declared the Stoics, as Stobaeus claims, is considered as an unbroken chain of causality, which the Stoics perceive as a natural and moral force almost identical with God, but also with justice and providence. Right, there comes karma again. You'll get your just rewards, in other words. According to the views of Parmenides and Democritus, as an inexorable development of natural tendencies of the whole, since only the natural tendencies of individual things can sometimes be hindered. The predominance of necessity and imarmeni, the fates, throughout the world is accepted by the atomic, Leucippus and Democritus, Diogenes Laertius, while, according to Xenocrates, the fates stand by human knowledge, defining each one of three parts of the latter. On the contrary, Anaxagoras calls imarmeni, the fates, an empty word, and declares that nothing is done in accordance with it. According to the Stoic Chrysippus, imarmeni, fates that is a certain natural and composed arrangement of everything in eternity, where one group of things constantly flows from another and is involved with another in an inviolable sequence. The whole concept of imarmeni of the Stoics is succinctly described by the translation of Cicero, which was saved by Seneca. He who wills, the fates lead him, and he who does not want, they drag him. Imarmeni, the fates that is, creates events but not human equalities, which it is the result of human free will alone. The Pythagoreans place human life between two poles, the coercive necessity and the free-willing power, while imarmeni is also found in Heraclitus, according to whom everything happens, as imarmeni, but in the sense of by analogy. According to Chrysippus, all the past happened, the present is happening, and the future will happen accordingly to imarmeni, but always co-forming with proeirisen or ephemin, that is, with what is in our power to shape. The man constitutes under it an organic element of an ordered whole. Imarmeni, or providence, or uk f imin, that is, which does not depend on man, and freedom or autonomy or f imin, constitute the basic poles as the given and the quest of mortal life and the long road to their completion. The word imarmeni, in the sense of fate or chance, was originally followed by the nouns fate, need, and in the absence of these, in particular, imarmeni was essentialized, which now means fate, luck, or on its own, and became synonymous with destiny. The meaning of the word is a creation of Ionian philosophy. In Heraclitus, there is already the word imarmeni with the meaning of fate and fortune, which under the terms fate, necessity, was rooted in the souls of the Greeks. The term does not exist in the tragedians, but it is frequent in Plato, the Attic rhetoricians, and above all in Stoic philosophy, of which it is a concept the most important theme and problem. The founder of the Zeno Lodge, 335 to 262 BC, was the first to write a book about imarmenis, the analytical philosophy of the concept of imarmeni, providence or destiny, that is, responded to Zeno, also wrote on imarmenis, also Chrysippus, the greatest theoretician of the Stoa, 3rd century BC, Posidonius, Plutarch, Alexander of Aphrodisias, Hierocles, Gregory of Nyssa, St. John Gregory of Nyssa, and St. John Chrysostom. From the Romans, they dealt with imarmeni. The term was not neutralized in the Latin language, and fatum was used mainly by Cicero, that is, fate. Minucius, Felix, and Tertullian. The content of a variety of ideas is presented, but with the central idea of the necessity of fate. The Ionian philosophers and Pythagoras perceive it as a universal law that affects man from birth to death. Plato initially does not accept the absolute necessity of imarmeni, but later he admits its unlimited determining power both in man and in the world, but he does not consider it as a self-sufficient essence. He only believes that it is a law by which becoming takes place. Imarmeni was deified by the Stoics and raised to supreme deity who determines everything. These ideas of the Stoics are parallel and clearly influenced by the theology of the Babylonians, whose concepts became better known in the Greek world from the time of Alexander the Great. Since then, the astrological concept of imarmeni, or destiny, or providence, or the fates, has been widely spread among the people. That is to say, the position of the stars determines the fate of man from his birth. And this view was also maintained during the Middle Ages, with enormous consequences for the course of humanity. After the era of absolute monotony, of indefinite duration, God decided to create the universe, and what follows is the multi-billion-year era of designing the model of cosmic creation, which apparently involves synthesis, construction, and solving of trillions of mathematical equations. Then, as the spatio chronos is completed, God finds that a completely rational and meritocratic universe is also completely trivial. Therefore, he creates imarmeni, fate or karma, the greatest fate, who, in the role of Pandora, undertakes to enrich the newly constructed divine mathematical edifice with the necessary flavor, or else with the quantization of randomness and therefore ambiguity, indeterminacy, and ultimately worthlessness that would make it fascinating. Imarmeni immediately begins her intervention, characterized mainly by assigning transcendental or implicit values to the fundamental physical constants, such as the base of the exponential function, the speed of light, the Planck constant, the circumference diameter ratio. After several billions of years of scrutiny, the divine duo, God imarmeni, completes the model of nature. The dominant feature of the created cosmic model is that it will constantly be in a state of critical equilibrium, so it will have the maximum possible excitement, but will not lead to its collapse. This is followed by the moment of creation, which is the supreme moment of happiness of the couple God imarmeni. But God is not satisfied with that. He seeks to feel himself in person, the excitement of his creation. That's absolute agnosticism, by the way. So instead of remaining a spectator and watching the cosmic evolution from the outside using a ruler frame of reference, he decides to go inside his creation and use a Lagrange frame of reference, thus experiencing its evolution firsthand. This decision provokes the reaction of Imarmenes, who, as the first female being, has an absolute erotic attraction towards the first male being. His abandonment, even with the aim of breaking the monotony, he perceives as an amorous rejection. But God is restless. He appoints Imarmene as the keeper of the cosmic law and forces her, despite her opposition, to create a passage according to Diodos Imarmene, hence a hole at some point in the universal space-time, through which he enters as structural energy, unit of energy, that is the photon, at the moment of creation, time equals 0. After entering his build, his structure, the creator now follows the evolutionary path of levels of complexity through all the stages of billions of years of universal evolution. Thus, it successively turns into a quark, proton, atom, molecule, biomolecule, cell, and finally humanizes and becomes a biological organism. Living like this, God, the life of an average and simple man, fully experiences the taste of his construction. However, man is an intelligent being, so the humanized God gradually begins to recover bits of mathematical knowledge, hence the knowledge that he used once upon a time to build the universe. As old age approaches, his human nature weakens and his intellect is gradually freed from material influences. The propensity to learn swells while in addition he begins to be possessed by a fragmentary divine memory. Ultimately, he states the obvious, that human life is too short to acquire the required knowledge that will allow him to escape from the chrono, time that is, before the fear of the end of his existence or the eternal and painful evolution. He begins to pray to the fates, to Imarmene, to offer him the revelation of the Imarmenian diode so that he can return to his previous state. Or, accused, abandoned, and alone for 13.7 billion years, the age of the universe, in her extraterrestrial headquarters, Imarmene, the fate, is in a great dilemma. Shouldn't God have foreseen that living as a human he would possibly fall to discover diode? So, did he just make a mistake, thinking then as God that finding her would be simple and self-explanatory, so he locked himself up, or had he foreseen the event and wanted to achieve the discovery on the edge of the thread, on the razor's edge, so to speak, in the context of relentless search for thrills? In addition, she is romantically wounded. He begins to experience a tragedy. During the days, he is overwhelmed by emotions such as anger and cruelty and decides to maintain a stance of inactivity. Since he is God, let him discover the passage of on his own. God is not entitled to second chance. Mistakes must be paid for both men and gods. Revenge is a treat served cold. At night, she's overwhelmed by feelings such as love and nostalgia, and decides to intervene and put an end to her creator's agony and pull him out of the impasse. Imarmene, despair, is now indescribable. Time in general yearns. Years, months, days, hours, and seconds pass hopelessly slowly, but not enough to make the final decision. This is according to ancient Greek philosophy. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support, and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.